This week on New Media Tech, we're trying to get back into the groove of a weekly show, and we're going to talk about NAB. NAB is coming up. Google Reader's going away, and what about feedburner? Is it going away? We'll talk about that here coming up as well. All that right after this. It's time for Media Tech again. This is episode number 5. And I want to start out because just after I recorded the last show and I showed you the interface that I made to my ATEM so that I can control from my iPad, somebody came out with an iPad control. And the advantage to this is when I was using my Touch OSC interface, it was actually talking back to a Mac. And it was using Touch OSC Bridge and MIDI pipe to make the things happen. This software actually talks directly to the ATEM. Nothing is in between. So I'm going to hop over. I'm going to show you because it's pretty cool. And there's 2 versions of it. There's the Pro version and the Lite version. I have the Lite version because there's no reason for me to have the Pro version with my TV studio because it doesn't have all those features. So I'm going to hop over. I'm actually going to use it to get over there. And there it is. So much prettier than what mine was. Mine, again, was done in Touch OSC, just with the base Touch OSC buttons. But you can see that it has, down at the bottom, your previews. So you can see I'm changing the preview. You can't see what I'm doing with it, but the previews are changing. And then you can also preview medias, which I have no medias in there right now. And let's go to somewhere. Let's go back to me and preview. And if you hit cut, it's a hard cut. So it works just like any switcher. Auto is fade, auto. And you can actually manually do the fade throw. So it's pretty cool. It's like $19 for the Lite version. And I think it's like $80 some for the Pro version. Maybe it's $9, something like that. Like I said, in my case, I didn't need the Pro version because it doesn't do any good to have the Pro version. And I don't know if I can change and show you the Pro version. No, I can't. I thought maybe I could change it and show it to you, but that's weird. That shouldn't be happening. I see because of the bug in thing. I should move that around. But anyways, that came out right after the last show was recorded, and I thought it was kind of funny. It was like a day or 2 later. I had to record the show, and I saw this announcement from this. So it's a very cool app. I've been using it a lot. It does more than what my app did. The only thing it's missing is I had a clock on mine, so when I was sitting here, I could tell what it was. But it doesn't really matter to me because I have a clock right there in front of me. It's just one of those things I thought it was kind of neat to have it on the iPad. I did have some future plans for that. I was going to control the color of the lights behind me and a few other things like that. I just never got around to it. But this works much better and doesn't require me to have a computer with the software running on it, 3 pieces of software running on it to be able to use it. So I can pretty much carry around with me anywhere and it just works. And it's pretty awesome. So that was out since last time. Now we do have some other news. NAB is coming up. I believe it's 2 weeks away now. And lots of cool things are coming out of NAB this year, supposedly, from what I'm hearing. There's a lot of companies now just starting to get kind of quiet. Some of them are saying, come see us at NAB. So they're going to make some big announcements, and they're kind of quiet, like any before any big show. So that's coming up. The other news this week, or actually it's a little bit last week, after this that previous show was recorded, is Google Reader is going away. It's not going away like tomorrow. It's going away, I think, in late July, early August, something like that. But I use Reader all the time until I check for news. So I'm looking for another news reader. I've been playing with Feedly, but along with the announcement of the Google Reader going away, there was rumors that the feedburner was going away, and that is not true, at least not yet. So many people that are doing the new media, video, and audio distribution are using feedburner to distribute their feeds. I used to use feedburner, but I have moved to a company called PodTrack, and that's because feedburner does a good job at distributing your feeds. And feedburner still reads my feeds. So whatever reads feedburner is still going to get it. However, their measurement, their graphs, and the reporting, it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't work. So I've gone to PodTrack, which is also free for the base service, and they give you graphs, and it's a lot more information about where your subscribers are coming from, what they're using, all that kind of stuff, and it's much more detailed. I definitely like it much better than feedburner. So I'm not as worried about feedburner going away. And if you are worried about feedburner going away, go check out PodTrack. It's PODTRAC, I think. Let me just make sure before I send you. Yeah, it is PODTRAC.com. So sign up for a free account. All my shows are running through there, and it's awesome, the information that they provide back to you about your subscribers. Plus, they also give you the ability to do surveys if you want, things like that. And if you, as the bigger you get, they will actually start providing you advertising if you want it from advertisers, which I believe is how they're making their money. Now, there are some premium services you can also buy, but I'm working just fine with the free account, and it's awesome. Much better than feedburner, much easier to understand. You get around it much easier than feedburner. So I would recommend go check that out. Again, don't worry about feedburner going away. There is no current plans that I've heard of feedburner going away. All right, so I've had some questions since I started this show, and we've gotten a little slow start, and that's partially because the person I was going to use for my co-host has decided he cannot co-host with me because of some family issues. So I'm not looking for a new co-host, but I'm going to continue with the show with just me until I do find one. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. If you are interested, if you do this kind of stuff and you want to be a co-host, and actually you don't have to be an expert at it. I mean, I'm not an expert at it. I don't consider myself an expert at it. And what I'm giving you in this show is what I've learned through starting this process out. And but if you're interested, let me know. So we did get a little bit of a slow start, and we hope to start picking that back up again. So, but I have been getting some email questions about why did I call it new media tech? Why didn't I call it podcasting technology? Or what was the one they gave me? Netcasting technology, something like that. And I want to explain where I come from with new media versus netcasting versus podcasting. Podcasting's been around for a long time. And if you look at the definition for podcasting, it basically is providing regular content in syndication, like on a weekly basis, however often you want to do it. And it typically uses an RSS feed. And that still exists. I do not think it's dying or dead or in by any means. I think that's still a very valid thing, and that is podcasting. I don't want to limit myself to that, though, because there's so much more. I mean, yes, my videos are delivered through RSS feeds, and that's probably how I get most of the views and listens of my shows currently is RSS. However, I think that's changing with a new Roku app that is out. It's amazing how many people have Rokus and have downloaded and installed that app or that channel to watch our shows. So that's where I think the netcasting comes in. Netcasting kind of combines the podcasting and the streaming side of things. So that's what I consider the all-encompassing would be netcasting. Netcasting includes podcasting. I'm going to take that one step farther. New media includes netcasting and social media and other kinds of new media things. You know, we're talking Facebook or Twitter or, the social networks. I think that new media covers all that because so many people get their videos from YouTube now. We have lots of views on YouTube. That's not our most popular way to watch our shows, but that is definitely a popular way to do it for our shows. And I think that's the way things are going in the future. And that's going to happen, kind of continue to happen, not just with YouTube, but on set-top boxes as they get more intelligent. Roku's, I don't know where they are as far as compared to Apple TV or Google TV, but they're out there. And it's becoming more and more popular as these devices get spread around. So I'm looking at this show to cover that whole umbrella, not just podcasting, not just netcasting. And I kind of distinguish netcasting and podcasting also. I typically think of netcasting as being a little more than streaming, typically video, although technically my videos are in a podcast form because podcasts can contain video as well. So again, it's just a terminology. I use new media because I want to cover all of that, not just focused on just one of those. So when you're coming to the show, I look at you as being one of two types of people. Either you're somebody who has a need to build a studio at this point, whether it be video or audio. Typically, I think it'd be probably video because you're getting in the new media. Visual is the way to go. And you're probably a company that has a need to create videos and content for your marketing, for your training, something like that. If you're coming in as a private citizen, I don't want to call this a private casting type thing, because I know I was trying to avoid calling it non-professional, because so many podcasts come out extremely professional, even though that's not what they really do for a living. So I was trying to avoid using non-professional, but I'm going to call them private podcasts. Like, you have a particular thing you have a passion about and you want to talk about it. And so you're coming in one of those two ways. So typically, if you're coming in as an organization, you have some funding behind it and you want to get to a certain point really fast. Where if you're coming as a private individual, you have something you want to get out and speak about, and you don't have probably much funding to do that, and you want to start small and grow it over time. I'm going to try to tackle both of those situations in this show. So it may be a little confusing until we get past the first few weeks and I start getting things rolling. You may feel like if you're coming in for professional side of things, that we are not moving fast enough for you. And the problem is I don't want to move too fast as well. And if that is the case, I recommend you give us a call or an email, and we can work with you privately to either get your studio set up or recommend things like that. We will eventually get to the professional level of stuff, and over that time we'll have content. So the beginner can start at the beginner level and work the way up to the full studio layouts with video, cameras, and everything else. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. And also got the question, why are we doing another show about video, netcasting, podcasting, whatever? And there's a couple of reasons for that. And I kind of mentioned already, I want to do a bigger umbrella. That's the main reason, because there are other good shows out there, but they don't quite cover the whole range. I'll give you an example. There's a great podcast I watch every week. I try to watch it live if I can, and it's called Studio Tech. And if you go to ttfn.tv, you can watch that there. They're great. They're awesome. The problem is they're looking at things they're running TriCasters. They're running, $20,000 TriCasters, where I want to cover from somebody who doesn't want to spend more than a headset maybe starting out. And I'm going to work up to the TriCaster. Yes, I'm definitely going to do that. But I want to cover that whole range. And they focus strictly on video. I think starting out, if you're starting out with something brand new to you, you've never done it before, I would say stick with audio. There's a lot less to learn. It's much easier. It's less expensive, less equipment. And I'm going to go through this whole thing here in the next couple of weeks as well and talk about this. So they're great. If you want to learn, go and watch that. There is another one of the podcast, Answer Man. He focuses pretty much strictly on audio podcasting, and he does a great job at it. He's been doing it for a long time, and he knows what he's talking about. So if you're looking at only doing an audio podcast, that's definitely a good resource for you. But what I'm finding is most people want to do a little bit of both. And that comes down to what kind of content you have. Like, we have shows that work good in audio only. For example, Security Decoded works great because it's more of a news show. We're talking about the recent trends in malware and things like that. And you can listen to that while you're driving, and it totally makes sense. But things like Let's Make It, where I'm going to visually show you like things like this, like electronic parts and how to set them up, doesn't really translate well to audio. So this is where you have to decide, what do you want your show to be? And if it's something that translates well to video, then you do video. If it translates well to audio, then you do audio. Some shows can work both ways, and that's what happens with Security Decoded. You get three of us talking in a room together, and it's entertaining visually or audio, either way. So you have to decide that. But starting out, unless you need video, I'm probably going to recommend you start out with just audio. I definitely recommend you go to listen to podcast Answer Man. It's Cliff Ravenscraft. He's Ravenscraft. Sorry, Cliff. But he's great. He's been doing it for 5 or 6 years, maybe a little longer than that now even. And his journey started out basically where you may be starting out, which is, just a simple microphone and a recording software. He still sticks mainly to audio. He does do some video training materials and stuff, but his shows are almost all audio. And that's definitely another good one, but it doesn't quite fit the demographic that I'm going after, which is I want to cover the whole range of new media, which includes video and audio. There's also another, I think it's Broadcast something, I can't remember what it's called, and I can't even watch it. I have to listen to it because they don't even know how to sync up video and audio from Skype. So that's the kind of show you probably don't want to watch to learn, because they're not going to teach you the right way to make your programs look professional. And in the case where I can't watch it because the person on Skype is talking and they're done talking and the mouse still moving, I just can't watch that kind. It's like watching a really bad, Japanese movie with subtitles, but it's not subtitles. You don't have nothing to read. So if you're reading something, you're distracted. But if you're listening to it, you're not distracted. That's the kind of thing that drives me nuts. And the shows, that same show isn't produced. You see them in the beginning, starting, not even looking, wolfing at anybody. Just not welcoming at all. And it's not that I say you have to make everything perfect, because I'm the first one to say you don't want to be perfect. Otherwise, people don't think that you're real. If you watch any of our shows, we make mistakes, we let them in there. We do not take them out. But we also don't start it until we're ready to say welcome. We don't sit there and look away and then you do other things, and then come up and say, oh, welcome. It's like, oh, yeah, you're here. So I just think we can do an overall better job for the wide range of new media versus being laser focused. And that's kind of what my goal is with this. We are going to laser focus on the process, and I'm going to talk about some of that coming up here as well. So next few weeks, we're going to do this whole starting from scratch. And what I'm going to try to do is try to build a decision tree. So like I said, you're coming in either with a budget and a goal in mind to build a studio, whether it be audio or video, or you're coming in saying, I have something I want to talk about. I have a passion. I want to get out. I want to communicate with people. I want to tell people about this. But I just want to do it in my spare time. So we're going to try to build a decision tree to help explain at what point and what hardware you should buy. So you basically will have this tree you can follow. So like, I'm going to start out with just a headset. And we're going to walk you through to show you how to get some free hosting and things like that to put your stuff out there and get you started with just the cost of a headset, which you may already have. And we're going to keep working that up, get to a better microphone, get to better audio equipment, get to better recording equipment. And we're going to work you up step by step as you get budget to do it. So over time, you can improve your quality. And eventually, if you keep going, you get to the video studio, and we'll be putting out video and audio podcasts, and by that time you're stuck. You can't get away from it at that point, because it's just in your blood. But what sometimes happens is you start recording and you go out and buy this equipment, and it's like, oh, that's a lot of work, and I don't want to do it this week, and I'll talk about everything I want to talk about. It's getting boring, and you just don't want to go any farther. So before you get to that point, I recommend you start out slow and small without spending much money, and just get started to see what you think of it. And typically, if you make it past like show number 10, you're going to be fine with that. You'll be fine to keep on going. You'll know by 10 if you don't want to do it anymore or not, for sure. Because it is a lot of work. People don't realize how much work it is to put together a show. And, I'm putting together 5 to 6 of them a week right now. And I do have co-hosts on a couple of them, which is greatly, greatly helpful. And they put a lot of effort into it. So I don't have to put all the same amount of effort into it. But we're going to start you out really slow with that. And in that process we're doing this, we're going to put together, I don't want to call it a netcasting 101, but something like a netcasting 101 type thing, where here's how you get started. And we're going to put together a series. I'm going to give it away for free, a video series. And I'm going to basically show you a different episode of those. Every week we do an episode. So I just started planning the recording of that yesterday. And hopefully maybe sometime this weekend or so, I can get around to starting to record some of the 101. And it's a lot more interactive. It's a lot more work for me. I have to do screens and stuff like that to show you, do the drawings for flow, and I have it all kind of planned out. But in addition to doing our regular weekly new media show, I will also include that in there. And over the next few weeks, you'll get to see the 101 course. And I'll make it available for free on the website, and anybody can go watch it at any time, all at one time. But I just can't do that right now because I don't have it all done yet. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to try every week to get the next section done, and it's going to just show it on the air. So as I mentioned before, if you're just getting started up, first thing you got to do is figure out, what is your passion? What do you want to tell everybody? What do you think about during the day? Or what do you think about when you're watching TV? What's the kind of things like, you like to ride a bike, which I don't know how that translates to a good show, but it really possibly could, because of the equipment and everything with the bikes and things like that. But that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. What's your hobby? When you're not working, what do you think about? What do you want to be doing? It could easily be literally watching TV. And I'll tell you why I mean that is, we just started a show a couple weeks ago around American Idol, because we are fans of American Idol. And my wife's been a singer all her life. She sings every week in a band. I've run sound now for bands for, 20 some years. More than 20 years. and done studio work. So, I mean, I've been around it, and music is part of what we do every day. And American Idol, we're definitely fans of it. They do a nice job. X Factor, we're good fans of that too. Not so much of a fan so far for the voice, just like the style of the singing off some things they do. I don't feel like they get the real talent out of the person and don't work with them enough. But anyways, we started an Idol fan show, and it's every Thursday night, and that's from watching TV. So if that's your passion, you could start another fan. It's a kind of fan cast. It could be a show. I mentioned before about Cliff Ravenscraft. That's how he started, was doing fans. So I think it was Lost or something, some show like that, and they were doing this fan podcast for Lost. And they've done tons of them now. I've seen Desperate Housewives out of them and a couple other ones. So if that's the kind of thing you have a passion for, sitting in front of a microphone talking just like this, it's a little hard at first, but it gets easier. It's a little harder in front of a camera as well. And the camera makes it a little more difficult until you get used to the camera being. You don't even think about it anymore. So that's the kind of thing you got to think about, is what is my passion? Now, if you're listening to this and you want to start doing something like this, you probably already know what that passion is. So that's a good thing. So that's the first thing you do. You get your passion. And I mentioned before, start out with audio only. So if you already have a headset, like a computer headset, I should have brought one in here with me to show you. Just a little $25, $30 headset. You can go get them at Best Buy, or probably even Radio Shack has them, I would imagine. And you can record that. Now, that's not the best, but it's going to start you out very inexpensively. You can download some free software, which we're going to talk about next week, to start recording your podcast right on your computer. I don't recommend long-term recording to the computer, but we will talk about that as we go forward with additional equipment. But starting out on the computer works just fine. You just got to make sure you save things often. That's what I want to say with the computer, because computers do fail, as do other electronic parts, but things that are purpose-built typically don't fail as often as things that are not. So if you decide you do want to do a video, so there's a couple ways you can do video, starting out really expensive. Some people just use webcams. Now, I will say, if you're going to do that and you can afford to, go get like a Logitech C510 or 520. They are high-def webcams. Most computers that come with webcams, they are not high-def, not really high quality. They're tiny, they're really small lenses. But if you can afford to get one, they're probably like in the $40 range. Plus, you need the headset, at least the headset. That's the way you can record video. And we're going to talk about that in the future too. And then you can get, as you grow, you can add another one and some software to help you switch between them, which will allow you to do a guest. So we're going to do this tree. You start out at this level, and the next step up is this, and it's how much it's going to cost you. And the next step up we recommend is this or this, depending on what you want to do, and it's how much it's going to cost you. And then we're going to keep going on this tree, and we're going to draw this tree out until we get to the point where you're at the end of the tree and you have everything you need to do a complete studio. And that's part of what we're going to try to do throughout these courses and this show as well. So I want to talk about a few things that are upcoming, and I don't know exactly when this stuff's upcoming, but I'll tell you things that are on our list. This audio versus video podcast. If you're doing an audio podcast, but you want it to be relevant for audio as well, which you should always try to do that if you can. Like I said, some shows that require things like this, that does not really relevant. But an example would be Security Decoded. It's interesting whenever it's visual, but it's interesting also when it's audio only. So there's things you can do to make it fit both of them as well, and it just doubles your audience. I don't want to say it doubles your audience. It just doubles the distribution of your show. So you have people that have it on audio and have it on video. We'll tell you, Security Decoded, we get as many downloads through Stitcher as we do Stitcher alone as we do all the videos. And we get audio downloads also through iTunes. So we have, it goes both directions. It doesn't necessarily work exactly equal. So that's the one thing we're going to talk about. We're talking about how to get the word out about your show. There's some typical, real easy marketing things you can do, ways you can find people to help get the word out, how you distribute your show. And that goes to, we distribute like to Stitcher, to Microsoft, and it goes to Zune into the Windows 8 and Windows 7 phones, and to BlackBerry. I know you think BlackBerry is dead, but we get a lot of listens through BlackBerry. So we do have all these different places we distribute things through. And we're going to talk about how you distribute all that stuff. We're going to get in, we get in the video, we're going to talk about a green screen. You can't really see it from where you are, but the green screen, we have a green screen wall over here that we can do that. How to get the video from computer to video, and I'll give you an example. What that one is, I showed you earlier on my iPad. The way we do it is we actually have an Apple TV attached to our ATEM, and we can AirPlay, and we can do that from an iPhone, an iPad, and a Mac, and it just makes it easy to put our stuff onto the screen. It's real easy to do that. And there's a bunch of ways you can do that, and we're going to talk about some of those options. Designing a website, creating a website. What tools do you use? Where do you put it? Things like that. How do you create a podcast file or an RSS feed file? There's many ways you can do that. We don't do it like anybody else does because we have custom written stuff to do ours. Software to use for audio recording. We're going to go through a minimal and audio and video setup. The minimal things you need. I've already told you a headset. You can start with a headset and free audio software. That's your minimal. Expanding your passion, figuring out who your target audience is, things like that. This is more like the marketing side. Mobile video, where you want, do you want to have to be able to be portable to do your show, or can you do it in the studio? Things like that. As you grow and you get an audience, what do you about chat rooms? We have a couple of different options with that. Where I'm looking at changing our current one to something else. So that's another option. How you engage your audience, keep them engaged. Comparing different kinds of microphones. This isn't the really condenser versus dynamic comparison, but we have in this studio, actually this is a Howe PR40, and right here, this is an Electro Voice EV20, and we have out in the other room a Shure broadcast mic, and then we have lavs, and we're going to talk about all different patterns of microphones. We're going to do a whole different discussion of different types of microphones, why you don't want to use condenser mics, and we'll demonstrate that. We actually have some USB condenser mics, and we can plug in and let you hear the difference in how they sound and things like that. And we'll go through all the different kinds of microphones. That's a whole week in itself right there, easily a whole weekend. So, how do you get feedback from your audience? Which is something that actually I have struggled with, and I still do struggle with, because I have some shows that get really great feedback from my audience, and I have other shows that get none. And I like even the ones that get more downloads, I don't get as much feedback as the ones that get less downloads. So I'm still struggling with that one as well. But we have some things that we found out that work a little better than other things. But I know I don't have all the answers. So hopefully this turns into a more interactive type thing where we can all talk together. Maybe start getting people in the chat room. This show isn't done at a regular time, so I can't give you a chat room at this point until I get a co-host that says I'm available at this time every week. And at that point, I'll put it down in stone, and we'll try to start building the community around it. We'll talk about headphones, in-ears, like these little things right here, like I have in my ear, and regular headphones, why they are important to have when you do a show, how you handle multiple shows. And this is something that I'm learning the hard way about, because, like I said, right now we have six shows a week. 2 of them are always batched. So we do multiple shows at a time. The other ones are done on the green screen. And we will, I just recorded one, it was 20 episodes. They're not time sensitive in any way, but I had 20 things that I want to talk about that I knew about. So I basically set the studio up. I had to face the cameras all that direction, change the lighting around a little bit, and I shot 20 shows in a row. And I go edit them all and render them all, and they're all out there waiting right now in the queue to be released. And that's called batching. So I did 20 shows with that one. The Security 101 show, I just did 12, and again, not time sensitive. And that show, if there's something time sensitive, we do inject a new release before the other ones come out. So if there's something security related coming out that everybody needs to watch out for, some kind of new scam going on, or something like that, we'll release in the middle of that. But I batched that. I sat in here for an hour and a half and recorded all those shows, and then went and edited them all and did all that together. So 2 of them are batched. That's how we handle those 2. But we have 4 of them that are weekly that are typically not batched. This show is typically not batched. I am going to do 2 shows tonight, just so that I'm one heck. Like I said, I'm getting ready to go away for a week, and I want to have one in the queue, ready to go when I'm gone. So I'm pre-recording a show. So I'm doing, that's a little bit of batching. But like Security Coded is recorded live. It's live on the stream. People in the chat room. Let's Make It is exactly the same way. That's the one I'm getting a lot of feedback from. It's working great. I don't know why I'm getting so much feedback out of that one. Security 101 is by far our most popular show by download. And that follows up by Let's Make It number 2. So those are our shows for the week, that we do live. We have the How to Fancast. This is our 3rd week, and it's catching on. And the thing with the How to Fancast is it's only limited time. It's 12 weeks long, and then the show's over. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, outsourcing the mundane stuff. Now, I come from an internet marketing background. Did it for quite a few years, and did well with that. And I could not have done well without outsourcing. That's where I learned outsourcing. So I'm just starting to do that. This comes down to a trust issue. Do you trust somebody else to run and put up your shows? So in my case, I don't really trust anybody else to edit it. And it would make sense for our weekly shows to have somebody else edit it. For the batch shows, it would make sense possibly to send it out to somebody. You give them all the stuff, they go work on it, bring it back to you. But the live shows, I pretty much leave this room, grab the recorder, the SSD recorder, go to my Mac, copy it on the Mac, and I edit it right then, set it in the rendering queue for the night, and leave. And the next morning, everything's done, and it's all up online. I couldn't do that if I had somebody outsource it. So that's something that I could not do. But there's a bunch of other things I do, some of the social media management, some of the website management, that I could outsource to somebody as long as I would trust them to have those keys to do that. And I am going to start doing that. So it's going to help relieve me somewhere. Right now, I get out there and I start rendering the video. The next morning, I get up and I have to go basically put in the information, all the files where they belong, but it's not in the RSS feed yet. Because I have to get it to YouTube first, because the website points to YouTube, and then the RSS feed points to the website with the show notes. So it's like one of those things where it has to wait in line. Where if I could give it to somebody that was, typically I would use somebody probably in the Philippines. I've always had good luck with people in the Philippines. They could do it while I was sleeping because the render would be done. And when I got up in the morning, it'd all be online already. So it would be done early. So I'm looking at that, using things like Podio to do tracking and things like that. So we'll get into the whole outsourcing thing a little bit later. Point to multi-point meetings. This is actually something that we do as not necessarily as TechZen TV, but we do it as Crazy Eye Studio. TechZen TV is part of Genius Idea Studio. Genius Idea Studio has Crazy Eye Studio, which is the video and photo studio. Also, we have an audio studio here. We can bring in bands and record stuff. And there's a couple other companies that are underneath Genius Idea Studio. But as Crazy Eye Studio, we go out to events and we can do, like, if you have one speaker, but you have a speaker in New York, but you have an office in like Washington and Los Angeles, and you want to put them up on a big screen for everybody that works there. We do broadcasts like that. And that's where we'll talk about how we do that as well. We're going to talk about live streaming. We do live stream most of our shows, and if our shows are not live, we actually do reruns 24 hours a day. So we're constantly broadcasting on the stream. We've been having some problems with the stream staying up recently, but we do constantly broadcast on the stream, and we use a VLC player, and we just randomly pick a show out of the list of all the shows we run. Every time we do a new show, we put it up in there, and it just randomly keeps picking it. So it's like running a reruns loop constantly when we're not on the air. So that's what we do with that. We'll talk about live streaming, though, and you just have to be live all the time, but we just do it that way. Tracking listeners. I mentioned earlier PodTrack. I use PodTrack to track the listeners. It tracks the downloads, tracks the subscribers, all that. It does not track the plays from our apps, but the apps themselves do track the plays. So we get that information back from there. And we do not currently track the views on YouTube. I know YouTube's tracking it, but we don't put it in anywhere and put it into our total views anywhere. That's something that's coming up in our software that we've written. Talk about show artwork. Recently, some changes in show artwork. We'll talk about that. Distributing information about press releases, playing sound effects, some of the software, screencast software, streaming from the iPad and the iPhone, moving RSS feed from one person to the other, which I recently did that. So this is a good example. I used to be on FeedBurner, didn't like it, went to PodTrack, and I figured out how to tell iTunes that my show had moved. And it's not actually that difficult as long as you have access to the RSS feed. How to use common hardware like compressors, delays. I think of that, like the Behringer Shark, which is what that one broadcast show I was talking about needs to have. DI adapters to change from balanced to unbalanced, all kinds of stuff like that. We're going to talk about all the different stuff because I'm assuming if people are coming here probably don't know anything. And starting out with this headset, you don't even need to know that because that's something that's going to come in time as you start to get a little bit bigger and you move to an actual soundboard versus just a headset, things like that. So, which would happen pretty quickly, probably. And we'll talk about that as part of the decision tree as to where you want to go and what order you want to do things in. So that was pretty much what I wanted to do this week. I was going to kind of give you an idea. And like I said, I'm looking for a co-host at this point. I am going to start doing regular weekly shows. I've been trying to do anyways. Sometimes not exactly on the week. But whenever I get the regular co-host, I will be able to pick a night and say, this is our day, whatever it ends up being, and say, this is when we're going to do it every week. And I'll be able to put that out there, and we actually can do a live stream. I definitely would appreciate feedback. If you have some, you can go to tech-zen.tv. And if you go to New Media Tech on the front page, you'll see on the right-hand side at the bottom all different ways you can contact us. From our Facebook fan page to the Twitter to the Google Plus page. We have a ton of different ways. We even have a phone number you can call. And something else we'll talk about is, how do you set up all these things and what's it cost? And the example of the phone number doesn't cost us anything. It's a Google Voice number. We don't, it's just set up for a voicemail. So you call and leave a voicemail. It emails us a translation and the MP3 file of your voicemail, and we have it for a future show. If you want to show us your studio setup or have questions about studio setup, you can create a video, send it up to YouTube, send us a link to it so you can watch it, and we may put that in a future show. Get that out there so people can see what other people are doing. Because our whole goal here is to share information and help to train people on just getting started on distributing their podcast or their netcast or however they want to do it. Basically the new media. I'm gonna keep trying to keep focusing this on the new media because that's what it is now. It's delivering videos via Facebook, delivering videos via YouTube. You can deliver them via podcast and RSS feed still, and that's still a very popular option. But I think the new media distribution method is going to start catching on a little bit more as we go on. You see how fast social media is catching on, mobile devices are catching on. So all this stuff is starting to take off, and podcasting, I don't think it's in danger of going away. I just don't think it's the only option now. And that's my whole point was that. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please do the little like thing at the bottom. Do a little check. That helps us out. If you have some friends that you think would be interested, there's a little share button on YouTube. And definitely hit the subscribe button. And if you're watching us from iTunes, while you're in iTunes, can you go to our show and put a comment and a rating in there for us? That helps us get up in the ranks. Because basically, if you don't have any comments or ratings, you're very hard to find in iTunes. The same thing goes with Stitcher. If you listen to us on Stitcher, it's exactly the same thing. You have to go out and help us out there and give us some ratings and comments. Otherwise, we just don't show up, and nobody ever finds us. So by adding ratings and comments, we show up much quicker in the list right there. All right, that's it for this week. My name is Mike Myers, and this is the New Media Tech Show, and we'll see you next week.